Today was a really weird day. It wasn't bad necessarily, it was just slightly off center. I still had a wonderful time, and I have perhaps my best book haul ever to share with you all today. This morning, I woke up, I went to a coffee shop. While I'm there, the guy behind me starts playing TikToks at full blast. Hello, what's happening here? Luckily, I had headphones, so it wasn't that bad, but I could still kind of hear it over my music. Eventually, he left. I also need to get air in my tires. I do want to clear up one thing. I remember I posted a video where I was like, I'm so overused books. Like, I am only gonna buy curated, intentional books for my collection now. And that is still true. All of the books that I buy are intentional and are books that I am so happy to have in my collection and I want to hang on to them forever. This used bookstore is just really well curated, and I always find books there in really great condition. I make an exception for this place specifically, one of my favorite places on earth. Enough babbling. I found not one, not two, but three Roberto Bolaño books on this trip. I don't know how, but as soon as I walked in, there was a pile of books on the floor. They were still pricing. Saw on top that they had The Savage Detectives. Went over just to see what else there was, and I found all of these books, and I'm so excited. I don't know how this happened. This is actually insane. Also, I just find it so amusing that Roberto Bolaño blurbed his own books. This one says, "The only novel that doesn't embarrass me is Antwerp." On the back of Tres, it says, "One of my two best books." It also has a blurb from Patti Smith. That's a pretty good pull. This is the only one that he didn't blurb himself. The last time I went to this bookstore, I already picked up The Savage Detective, so I didn't buy it this time. Also, in that pile on the floor, I found this wonderful copy of The Left Hand of Darkness. I'm so hyped on this. Anytime I find a vintage sci-fi, especially if it's like an author like Le Guin, it's just so exciting, and this was only like $2, so I'm very, very hyped on this. Been a lot of discussion about Le Guin and The Left Hand of Darkness in my server. I still haven't read any of Le Guin's sci-fi, and I did want to start with Lathe of Heaven because it just sounded so interesting, but now that I have this copy, I might just start with this. I picked up this delightfully yellow copy of Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. I do own the annotated Mrs. Dalloway, but I figured this was a little bit more readable and more portable, and I just could not say no to this lovely cover. Picked up Disgrace by J.M. Kurtza. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. I do have an ongoing project to read all of the Pulitzer Prize winners. I've been saying since 1998, but I might just extend that out to just all Pulitzer Prize winners. I don't have a timeline for this. It's just a lifelong reading project for myself. So I saw that this won the Nobel Prize in Literature, and I also know that Chris Bookish Cauldron read this book and liked it, so very excited about this one. And finally, I got the illustrated Walden. I pass by Walden Pond all the time on Route 2 to and from Western Mass to Eastern Mass. I have been meaning to read this. When I saw the illustrated edition, I could not pass it up. In wonderful condition. Like, look at these end papers. Oh, that's gorgeous. These end papers are to die for. Oh yeah. As a reading update, I read book 2 of A Stranger in Alondria today. This is my buddy read with Angela from Literature Science Alliance. It's very interesting so far. Last night I read book 1. There's just so much going on in that introduction. Jevic, the main character, does remind me a lot of Fitz, which is something that Angela also pointed out. And the structure of the novel is also very reminiscent of Assassin's Apprentice, where it's the narrator remembering and looking back on his past, writing this as a memoir. In that first section, it's very dense with so much world building and specifically with a lot of care paid to religion. And it takes place on an island where they have all of these different superstitions and they burn herbs like fennel as prayer. Super fascinating. I think that I did have a little quibble with the writing in the first part because I feel like it's so heavy with metaphor, and on top of that there are so many of these fantasy terms being introduced. I don't necessarily love when you read a fantasy book and the author just blasts you with all of these terms, and because there's so much world building happening in this first part that is happening as a sort of stream of consciousness, remembering what his childhood was like kind of narrative, just all gets sort of lost in the sauce. Like, I'm thinking of the opening of Assassin's Apprentice. Fitz is remembering his childhood, but it's also very grounded in specific scenes. There is this like very physical sense and sensual feeling to the world. Like, already I can picture Fitz, how cold he was, and then the warmth of the hay. Now I'm just ranting about Assassin's Apprentice, but this book, when it opens, Jevic is remembering his childhood and describing his father, who is a really wealthy pepper merchant, but it's not really like scene to scene. It's more like we're dropping in on a moment and then pulling back out, and then time is passing and we're learning more about his family situation and the world. There's a lot of world building happening, and you just get the sense that this is a very vast, diverse place. So there's a lot happening in book 1, and I think I was a little apprehensive about it. I thought the prose was really beautiful, but it was also veering on the purple side. You need to have like a variation on the sentence type where some sentences are a little bit more straightforward and then you work up to a metaphor. That's not really the case here. It's just like every single sentence is beautiful on its own, but when you jumble them all together, I think it does create an effect that is very heady and like almost purple. Going into book 2, we do start to get a little bit more grounding in the story, and there is just like more of a actual plot starting to develop that I'm enjoying. I actually don't know if I'm going to be able to get any more reading done tonight because I have a No Life Forsaken discussion happening on Library of Alexandria's channel, and then I just need to get some like tidying up done of my apartment. Vlogmas has been really fun. I have also been neglecting some of my chores while I do these videos. That is on the docket tonight. If I can, I would love to read a little bit more of 2666 in honor of my wonderful Roberto Bolaño haul, but that remains to be seen. I feel like I've been reading this book forever and I'm only like that much done with it. Such is life.